Continuing from part 2, we see Simon aboard a train to Los Angeles. In the club car, he flirts with a woman by telling her that he is a quantum physicist genius. He adds that he knows who caused the global blackout. The woman is intrigued while Simon explains the paradox of Schrödinger's cat. Following the simultaneous attack on FBI agents, Janice is rushed to the hospital. Although Janice lost a lot of blood during the attack, Oliva manages to stabilize her vitals and save her. Elsewhere in the hospital, Lyad tells his son that he is getting discharged soon and they can go home. Dylan doesn't seem to care much, instead murmurs "It's my house, too." Mark and other FBI agents arrive at the hospital to get an update on Janice's health. Mark tells Olivia that the attacks on him and Janice must be connected because of the Mosaic investigation. Olivia is already stressed that Lyad and Dylan are still in the hospital, and her flash might come true. She wants Mark to stop lingering in his flash and start living in the present. This includes having Mark go trick or treating with Charlie back home. After learning that Janice is stable, Wedek wants his agents to go home and take some rest. However, Demetri wants to search for the people who attacked them. Therefore, he and Al go to the morgue to check on the guys that they shot dead during the firefight. At the morgue, Demetri finds a blue hand symbol on one of the dead attackers. From Mark's flash, we know that the blue hand is one of the clues from his vision board, and the symbol is also somehow related to the word Baltimore. Demetri notes that there is a Baltimore street in Los Angeles, so the agents head towards the street to look for any clue related to the Mosaic investigation. Meanwhile, Mark is back at home and goes trick-or-treating with his daughter Charlie. Back at the hospital, Janice is taken back to the emergency room as her blood count falls drastically. On the train, Simon and the woman flirt for a while and end up in Simon's compartment. In the bed, the woman reveals that her flash placed her in Times Square on April 29th, where 500,000 other people were waiting for a ball to drop. When asked what he saw in his flash, Simon tells her that he choked a man to death, and unusually, he felt very satisfied while doing the act. Back at the hospital, Lloyd enters Dylan's room for trick-or-treating, but he isn't there. Lyad searches the entire hospital, but his son is nowhere to be found. After looking at the CCTV footage, he sees Dylan wandering outside the hospital gate. Meanwhile, Dylan gets onto a bus and recites an address, 25,696 Sawyer Court. The driver insists Dylan pay a fare, but a man intervenes and threatens the driver to take the boy to the set address. When Dylan arrives at 25,696 Sawyer Court, it turns out to be the Benford home. In the following scene, Demetri and Al follow their intuition when they come across a blue hand decal on a stop sign. When they follow the hand, it points them to another on a telephone pole that leads them to an abandoned house. Next, Dylan arrives at the Benford home and Nicole answers the door. He steps inside, saying the same verse that he said to his father earlier, "It's my house too." Nicole is surprised to see a stranger casually entering the home. Dylan walks in and opens a hidden jar of cookies and eats from it while repeating, "It's my house too." Meanwhile, Mark concludes the trick-or-treat adventure with Charlie. When they are about to return home, he sees a group of men wearing the same masks and costumes as he saw the assassins wearing in his flash. Wasting no time, he chases one of them down in a cemetery. But when he catches the man, it just turns out to be a teen who thought he was in trouble for pulling a prank. Mark then gets a call from Nicole, asking him to come home as soon as possible. Mark arrives at his house to find an unknown boy with Nicole. Nicole reports that she already called the boy's father, thanks to the ID wristband Dylan was still wearing. When Mark asks how Dylan ended up at the house, Dylan thinks about what he saw in his flash forward. In the next scene, we get to see Dylan's flash, where Charlie lets him know that it is okay to have a cookie because this is his house, too. While eating the cookie, Dylan notices an address on a label attached to the refrigerator. The address turns out to be Benford's home address. Just then, Charlie arrives at the scene and casually high-fives Dylan as if they are old friends. Mark and Nicole are confused as they cannot make sense of what is happening. But when Lyad arrives to get his son and introduces himself to Mark, Mark gets his pieces together that Lyad is the man Olivia saw in her flash. When Lloyd also sees the inside of the Benford home, he realizes it's the one from his flash, and Olivia is the woman for whom he is going to have strong feelings. The situation gets awkward when Olivia returns home from work. Mark then asks Lyad to leave with his son as soon as possible, and never to appear in their life again. Lyad understands and thanks Olivia for saving his son, before walking out. In the meantime, Demetri and Al venture inside the unoccupied house. They see blood stains on the porch and throughout the downstairs. In the main room, several bodies are seen covered in blood-soaked sheets. The FBI agents then discover a blue hand in one of the bodies. Back at the hospital, Janice has stabilized once again, but there are complications regarding her uterus. She reveals to Wedek that due to the complication, the chances of her being able to have children are gone. This sharply contradicts her flash since she had seen that she was to be pregnant with a baby girl in the next 6 months. Back at the Benford home, Mark accuses Olivia of hiding things, thinking she was the one who told Dylan about their home address and how she has been seeing Lyod behind his back. Olivia denies seeing Lyod and explains that she has tried her best to avoid him. Olivia then confronts Mark for hiding about his flash, where he saw himself drinking once again. Mark finally admits that he was intoxicated in his flash forward, but promises that he will not drink. Olivia points out they don't trust each other anymore. In the meantime, Demetri and Al find a passport on one of the deceased bodies. It's for a Scottish man named Ian Rutherford. In Al's flash, he was in London working on the Rutherford case with a Scotland Yard liaison, Fiona Banks. The bird crashed into the window and died. Al and Fiona were investigating the Rutherford case. Demetri and Al then realize that the things in Flash are now eventually coming true. Next, Simon arrives in Los Angeles and meets Lloyd in his car. As Lloyd drives off, Simon says that their experiment killed 20 million people. In the following scene, Al narrates a message to a woman named Celia. Al admits that although he does not know her last name or where she lives, he knows that she has 2 young sons. He also tells Celia he knows she did not have a flash forward. The series skips to when Mark, Demetri, and Al go to the morgue and discuss the 3 deceased persons Demetri and Al had discovered in the abandoned house. They learn that all 3 died of self-inflicted gunshot wounds. The 3 agents deduce the fact that one of the dead, Ian Rutherford, will be the center of the Rutherford case which Al was discussing with Fiona Banks during his flash. Meanwhile, Aaron arrives at his work where a man named Mike Willingham waits for him. Mike reveals that he worked with Aaron's daughter Tracy in Afghanistan. He first apologizes for not having come to visit Aaron earlier, but explains that he had been trying to job. Mike goes on to explain that he had promised Tracy that, if anything ever happened to her, he would return her pocket knife to her father, and he hands the knife to Aaron. Since Aaron had seen he was giving back the knife to his daughter in his flash, he thinks she could be alive. Aaron then embraces Mike and thanks him. At the Los Angeles field office, Wedek and his FBI agents discuss the Mosaic case when Fiona Banks arrives from London, explaining that as soon as she heard Rutherford's death, she knew she had to come to investigate it. Demetri reports to the team that the people who have blue hands call themselves ghosts, the ones who didn't see themselves in their flashes. He then displays their webpage of the same name, and the agents learn that ghosts often gather around for meetings. Later, Fiona and Al share their mutual flashes. Fiona tells Al that she went to the window and saw the wounded bird, still alive, dying in pain. She wished that she could do something to ease its suffering. Al remembers that he saw more to this flash than just the Rutherford case and the dead bird. During his flash, Al also received a phone call immediately after the bird hit the window. On the phone, a man said that Celia has been taken off life support and that her sons will be placed in an orphanage. Al realized that he killed her although it was an accident. At present, Fiona asks who Al was talking to on the phone. Al replies it was just his attorney and declines to discuss his call with Fiona. When getting ready for work the following morning, Zoe tells Demetri that they need to go to select their wedding invitations. When Demetri asks if she can just do it by herself, Zoe confronts her fiancé about his lack of commitment to the marriage. Demetri storms out of the apartment and heads to work. Meanwhile, Nicole starts volunteering work at the hospital apparently to gain peace of mind from her flash forward of potentially murdering someone. Next, Mark, Demetri, and Al locate Ghost's meeting place and infiltrate it by telling a bouncer they are there at the invitation of Dr. Raynaud. Convinced, the bouncer escorts them inside where they meet an old man named Romanchak. Romanchak places a revolver on a table and asks who is going to play. When Mark and the others remain silent, Romanchak points the revolver under his chin and pulls the trigger. Nothing happens and the old man again asks who is going to play. Suddenly, Al grabs the gun, places it under his chin, and pulls the trigger. Thankfully, nothing happens. Romanchak says that is their ticket to the inside meeting. The agents then enter the main area of the building through a bartender named Nadine. They learn that Raynaud is a different person at each meeting. Back at the hospital, Lyod visits Olivia and thanks her once again for saving his son's life. He adds that he is moving back to the Bay Area as soon as Dylan is cleared to transfer. Meanwhile, Nicole quickly bonds with Bryce, who asks for her help interpreting a symbol he saw behind the woman who was in his flash. Nicole tells him that the symbol is a Japanese letter meaning belief. Nicole then urges him to put his story up on the Mosaic Collective so that he could find her. In the following scene, Mike visits Aaron once again and tells him the truth. Aaron's flash of seeing Tracy alive will not come true because Tracy is dead. Mike explains that he was with Tracy the day she died. Their vehicle was ambushed and hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. Mike managed to get out, but Tracy didn't. In the aftermath, Mike found Tracy dead with her right leg amputated above the knee. Back at the ghosts' meeting, Mark and the others go inside a large room where people are involved in deadly assaults. When a warning sound alerts everyone, Dr. Raynaud enters. Dr. Raynaud makes a short speech and then tries to shoot himself, but Mark intervenes. The FBI agents arrest the doctor, who is actually revealed to be a school teacher named Jeff Slingerland. While Slingerland is being interrogated, he tells the agents that Ghosts gets its followers from the Mosaic Collective web page, and that there is little anyone can do to stop them or their fate. After the interrogation, Al approaches Fiona at her office to tell her that maybe she could tape the window so that the bird from their flashes does not hit the window, consequently avoiding its death. Later that evening, Demetri returns home and finally explains to Zoe that he did not have a flash. Zoe tells him that, because they have two different experiences, they can select the hopeful one. Meanwhile, Aaron invites Mike back to his office at the Department of Water and Power to tell him that he had found him a job with the department. The following day at work, Al leaves a note for Demetri and catches the elevator. As Demetri reads Al's words, he realizes that it's a suicide note and the message is addressed to Celia. Demetri, Mark, Wedek, and Fiona rush to the roof where Al stands on the edge. The agents plead with him to step back, but Al thinks he's found a way to change the future. If he dies, Celia, whoever she is, will live to raise her two young sons. Al realizes that in the future, he will be the reason behind Celia's death, so he wants to change the course. The FBI agents are horrified as Al plunges to his death. In the following scene, we get to know Al's final words to Celia, that is, live your life, live every day, and know that the future is unwritten. Make the most of that. At the end of part 3, we see Simon clutching a bracelet that has Annabelle written on it. Meanwhile, Aaron returns home from work to find Tracy, with her amputated leg, sitting in the kitchen. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on the notifications, and hit a like to help the channel out. Don't forget to watch part 4. Thanks for watching.